I've been hearing the right complain about equality of outcome for a while now without ever saying what that means. Equality of outcome as opposed to equality of opportunity. But asking them for examples of these two ideas, you might as well ask a basset hound to explain the Wu-Tang Clan. Well, someone finally broke down and gave us an example. Here's Ben Shapiro.
Meaning that, so for example, LBJ thought that the way to alleviate a lot of these inequalities was the war on poverty. And he openly talked about this. He gave a speech very famously in which he said, we're trying to guarantee equality of outcome, not just equality of opportunity, equality of outcome.
LBJ never used the term equality of outcome in any speech, but this is the conservative interpretation of the war on poverty. And we finally have an explanation as to what equality of outcome means. Now, what program is the war on poverty most famous for? Medicare. And to a lesser extent, Medicaid and food stamps. Do you know how popular Medicare is? Back when elderly fascists would protest Obama back in the day, they would carry signs that read, "Keep your government hands off of my Medicare." In other words, that program is so popular that even the people who voted against it support it. Untalented people get desperate when they're faced with competition. And what happens when you have a so-called progressive show hosted by untalented people is they try to expand their audience into conservative circles because they can't keep up with the left. I mean, this has been Bill Maher's reaction, for example, to John Oliver. And many times when trying to appeal to these conservative audiences, you accidentally end up sitting on your own balls. Here's TYT talking to Dr. Phil, and they're about to accidentally argue against Medicare for all.
And the thing where I start getting to a fork in the road is if we start saying the way to fix it is to shoot for equality of outcome. That's not a fix for an imperfect meritocracy. What I want to shoot for is equality of opportunity.
Agreed.
Not outcome.
That right-wing Sesame Street character you just heard that TYT Karen was agreeing with was one of the keynote speakers at that white nationalist rally Trump headlined at Madison Square Garden not too long ago, talking about DEI as if a black woman is inherently unqualified to be president. In the meantime, if it wasn't for a black woman, no one would even know who he was. And of course, by black woman, I mean my queen, Bad Baby. By the way, if your basic needs are not being met in terms of food, shelter, a car, a phone, then you're probably a little too busy trying to survive and you don't really have much time to seek out opportunities. So equality of opportunity and equality of outcome are, for all intents and purposes, the same.
Not outcome.
And so can I run a proposal by you then when you say that? Because we totally agree. Okay, we don't want equality of outcome. That's forced upon people. That's not human nature, and it won't last anyway, right? Even if you have an equality of outcome for a minute, it'll be unequal in a second, and you're back into the mess, etc. It's just totally unworkable. So we have complete agreement there. But
so what Cenk is arguing is that if we manage to get Medicare for all, another Republican will just come along and take it away from us, just like they did it for abortion rights. So why even bother to fight for anything in the first place? And this whole thing about human nature, about egalitarian cooperation being against human nature, this is absurd. How do you explain the concept of justice, which people clamor for all the time? If living together in some form, some kind of harmony, some degree of harmony is against human nature, how do you explain roommates? How do you explain traffic? I mean, if there wasn't an instinct for fairness and cooperation, wouldn't we just be constantly slamming into each other at four-way stops? Why does capitalism keep collapsing? Anyways, listen. Cenk subscribes to this boomer myth that I heard a lot growing up, which is, it's always in some form of this. Conservatives are all about common sense and liberals are all about starry-eyed idealism. Nowadays, we have a more, nowadays I think most people agree that the left is about pragmatism and conservatives is about, being conservative is about opportunism. And this is proven very simply. Here's a thought experiment. Name one policy that the right subscribes to that benefits the majority of people. Exactly. Cenk's problem, besides the fact that he looks like a Vegas lawyer and talks like a disgruntled teenager who just discovered politics a week ago, is that he's a conservative by nature. He takes pride in his own simplicity.